Good. Well, we're going to get started. Thank you guys so much for coming today. My name's Katie Malchow, and today's session is called Customer Care, treating your customers the way that you yourself like to be treated. The way this is going to go is I've got a few things written down, and I was actually kind of excited to get a chance to talk about this because customer care is something that I feel like I have really had to work at in my business. I'm sure we all have certain gifts or things that we bring to the table that we just don't really have to work very hard at. We're just sort of naturally good at. Customer care is not that for me. So when they asked me to talk about it, I felt like I had some real concrete ideas, actions that I can give to you that will hopefully help you as well. How this is going to go is I'm going to start out talking about customer care, and that's going to be the bulk of the presentation. And then I've got these two lovely ladies down here, Amanda Zorns and Timberly Miller, who are going to come up here, and we're going to take questions and answers after that. So that's that. I want to share with you first a story. And you're going to have to bear with me for a minute because you might not see the relevance, but I assure you it is very, very relevant to your business. I recently went to the dentist, and you should all know that I am a absolute religious flosser. I'm amazing at it. I do it all the time. I love to floss my teeth 2 weeks before my dental appointment. The rest of the time, it's like all bets are off, and you cannot judge me because you too might be a lazy flosser, or you might very well be sitting next to one. So you can't judge this situation. So I go to my dentist appointment, and I'm feeling very sheepish about this particular thing. And I get through my cleaning, and I'm having a great conversation with my hygienist, and she's wrapping her little dental floss around her fingers, and she's going to put it in my mouth, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, I just know I should floss more frequently. And she's like, oh, don't worry, Katie. She's like, you don't have to floss your teeth. And I'm like, huh? She's like, no, really. She says, you don't have to floss your teeth. She says, you only have to floss the teeth that you want to keep. And I, with fingers and dental floss in my mouth, bust up. And I'm like, I'm totally going to use that in my presentation. Because you guys, that's what this is. Your customer care is oral hygiene. That's the same thing as your dental floss is to your dentist, is your customer care to the livelihood and the health of your business. You see it? You got it? Yeah. This is my analogy. I was super proud of it. I told her to. So in any case, we have different things that we do over the course of our business, you guys. We work with our team. We work with our team leaders. We're all here. We attend these major, biannual visits that we come together and we get an overall health check on how we're doing. But the thing about flossing that I thought was such a good analogy is it really only takes, honestly, even if you do it really, really well, like less than a minute a day, right? So I took that to think, I would look at these stacks of leads or these customer care touch points that I wanted to make, and I would have a stack of them, and I would not do it because I had so many of them. I thought, I don't have 3 hours to dedicate to making all of those calls. I don't have that time. I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna wait to touch base with those customers about how they like those books. I'm gonna wait to touch base with that hostess because I just don't have time to talk right now. So what ended up happening is I had an unhealthy business. I would feel really sheepish when I went to pick up that phone finally because I'd look at my calendar and I needed bookings on my calendar. I felt really sheepish. I was doing that same apology to my hostesses that I was doing to my hygienist as she's winding her fingers up with dental floss. And I realized, and this has been, I have realized this over and over the course of the weekend, that this is not news. Beth Jones Shaw talked about this. Different speakers throughout the course of the weekend have talked about you have got to start someplace. You have got to start small. You pick something. You pick one phone number and you start there. And maybe this is the other thing. I'm a bit of we call it orange in this company. And those of you that aren't familiar with the colors, orange is a little bit of a vibrant personality. We tend to be outgoing. We tend to be highly disorganized and scattered. I'll get to that in a minute. But so for me to really outline and to chart and to take all of my customer care calls and do those at one time and to take all of my hostess coaching and do all of that at one time as I had been trained to do, it really wasn't working for me. So I was like, I've got 30 seconds and I've got one phone number and I don't really care if it's on my home show list today or if it's on my team care list today. I just need to make a phone call. And I gave myself permission to do that and I hope you'll do the same. Something else that I learned from a past employer, they had this fantastic acronym, and it was part of their culture, and it was called the Leaders Culture, and each letter in the word leaders had a different meaning. And I can't remember most of them, but the one that I do remember, and I live by it, and I swear by it, is to assume positive intent. So you'd get through it, and it was assume positive intent. And I use that. It's an inner mantra, and I use it all the time. I think about it when I'm working with my downline. I think about it when I'm working with my hostesses. I think about it when I'm working with my children, and I absolutely think about it when I'm working with my husband. He is not trying to make me crazy. He's not. It's not. And I have a great example of that, too. I was trying to come up with some ideas, some real tangible examples for you guys on some of these things that I was hoping to relay. And Timberly Miller, who's not orange, she's very gold. And again, if you guys know what that is, it's a very organized, highly organized personality. And Timberly reached out to me about 6 weeks ago, and she said, well, Katie, I'm really excited to be presenting with you. I'm just wondering if you have your outline ready for your presentation. This is all via email, but
not 6 weeks ago.
I'm telling you, I could read the smile through it. And I'm like, she's being so nice, and I know I have to assume positive intent. She's not trying to make my hackles come out and I'm sweating. Like, she doesn't know. That's how it can feel for an orange person to have to be that kind of organized and orderly about things. So that's something I want to encourage you as well as you're talking with your customers. I have a great example. When I was asked to do this presentation, I thought, well, there's an awful lot of customer care things that I have already put into action. But there's many, many more that I feel like if these people have asked me to talk in front of all of you, that I should probably be walking the walk as well. So I picked up my folder of my most recent home parties and the orders that people made, and I started calling them. And it was about 2 weeks post. At this point, I wasn't picky. I wasn't following a schedule. I was just like, I got to call these people because I'm going to stand up in front of a room full of people and tell them that I called these people, and I better have had done it. So what I learned on those calls was, A, they weren't hard to make because I was flossing regularly with them. They were already on my radar, and I was already on them. So it wasn't hard to pick up the phone. I also wasn't asking them for something out of the blue, which is much easier to do. And let me tell you, these are real life conversations that I had from this one home party that I did. One person did exactly what Beth told us she would do. She went, yeah, the books are great. She was shocked. She couldn't believe that I had picked up the phone and called her. I had another customer, and she said, I wasn't going to say anything, and I'm kind of embarrassed still, but she said, when my books arrived, they all look great except I had this one book, and the corner of the cover was bent. And I hate to be picky, I really do. And she was so embarrassed to even bring up the fact that her experience was less than an A+. And as far as I'm concerned, she's not going to come back to me unless she's had an A+ experience, because look around you. There are so many other people that she can go and buy books from. I need to create a reason why she's coming back to me and only to me. No offense. So I told her, I said, absolutely, tell you what, I have an order going in tomorrow. I will reorder that book from you. And rather than doing the traditional the problem with my order form, she didn't need to know all of that. I just said, I have an order coming in. I'm going out of town next week. The books will arrive, and I will deliver them in the week after I get home. She said, oh, would you really? It's not that big of a deal. I said, absolutely not. So that's your money. That's your book. It should be exactly how you want it to be. Okay, so I meant that. Can you guys imagine being in the same situation if you would mean that? Is that hard to offer that level of service? It's really not. It was Ted and Friends. That's $20. I don't know what $20 means in her family, but I know that she bought a book for me, and it matters that she's happy with it. Third one I'm going to tell you about, and this is also a true story. I called. I said, hey, I'm just calling to follow up with you. I wanted to see if you're enjoying the books, if you've had a chance to open them up, and if you guys have loved all over them yet. And the woman said, yes, we did, and we love them. And you know what? I think I'm going to do it. I just want to have a party. on my calendar for next week. You guys, this is real. This is the real deal. And it's a good thing I did it leading up to this. Like, this presentation was the catalyst for that. But could you imagine? I've been in this business for 3.5 years. Do you have any idea how many customer care calls I could have done in that time and how much more business could have happened? How many more satisfied customers? How many more home parties and whatever else that leads to, recruits and money in my pocket? It's worth it. Julianne Jones says a couple years ago, that's dollars on the table, and she's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Something else that I want to say, and I just brought it up here, was loyalty is important. There's a lot of customers out there, and there's a lot of consultants out there. And if any of you have ever had the opportunity to hear somebody say, whether it's to you or about you, you know what, I have a consultant already. Do you know what that does for you? And what that does for your business, that loyalty and how important that is? And I want to be clear that a loyal customer and a customer are not the same thing. They're not the same thing. Lots of people will buy books. It goes back to that whole flossing thing. You've got these teeth in your mouth. They're out there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got them. Are you going to take care of them to make sure that they remain with you? Or are you going to lose them and continue to have to go buy more and more? I'll stop with that analogy. It's reached the end. That's it. So something else that I wanted to just share is I have a networking group that I'm a part of, and this group has proved to be invaluable to me in my business, as my role has been to them as well. But when I had this opportunity come across my plate, they were the first group I resourced. I said, you guys know me as a person. You know me as a fellow direct seller. You don't sell my product, but you've all been my customers, and in some cases, you've even led me to some recruits. Tell me what I do to provide customer service. I'm asking. I want to know the good, the bad, the ugly. Well, because they're my dear friends, and because they knew I needed a vote of confidence, they didn't tell me the bad or the ugly. They just told me the good, which I totally appreciate. But something that one of them said is that, and I already alluded to this, it's that she said, you make everyone feel important. Truth. And I thought, if I could do that to a struggling reader, if I could do that to a mom who's coming desperately to my party because her child is failing, or if I could do that to a grandmother who is desperately trying to get books into the home of their grandchild because their parents don't seem to see it as a priority, that's what we do. And you can call it customer care. You can call it being a caring person. You can call it whatever you want. But the thing is that as long as we wear the things that we wear and we represent this company, we owe it to each other to make sure that we are providing good customer care. Because in a room like this, I know that the competition is steep. And I want to make sure that the people that I meet out there, the people that are buying books from me, want to keep coming back to me. Because I know that if they don't, they're never coming back. Because they're going to meet a Timberly, or they're going to meet a Sean, or they're going to meet a Miriam. And they're never going to come back because I know the caliber of service that you ladies offer to your customers as well. So here's some examples. These are real life things that have happened in my business that have been prompted out of the avenue of customer care. A couple years ago, 2 years ago exactly, it was Easter time, and I happened to have some extra inventory. And I put together these Easter baskets, and I was really excited about it. And I thought, these are beautiful, and I took pictures, and I posted them on Facebook, and I generated a ton of hype. I had all kinds of people saying, I want it, I love it, I love it, I want it. How much? And when I posted the price of these Easter baskets that I had taken the care and the time to put together, it was crickets. I didn't hear a single thing. They stopped. And I thought, so I outpriced my customers. That stinks. But instead of taking that back or posting cheaper baskets, what I did is said, you know what, let's just have an Easter basket bonanza. That's it. I opened up my home. I put my books all over the place. It was mayhem. But I also went to the store because I knew that as a mom of 3 small children, that Easter baskets mean lots of candy. They also mean lots of extra candy. So somebody's either got to eat it, the kids either are going to eat it or I'm going to eat it. Either way, it's not going to last through the holiday. So I viewed that as a service to my customers, and I bought a bunch of candy. And I had bags, and I went and I bought sidewalk chalk, and I bought those little plastic eggs and basket feeder. I got all kinds of stuff, Easter basket stuff. And I invited my friends over, and I said, come on over and make your Easter baskets. The only thing I made any money on that day were the books. I charged for the candy. I charged for all the toys as I purchased them. But I went and I bought cute little sand pails for people to make their Easter baskets out of. And people left my house that day prepared for Easter. There's probably some people in this room that know what that feels like, but I sure don't. Anytime a holiday comes around, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got 12 hours until that thing's supposed to come down the chimney. What am I going to do? Like, oh, Timberly doesn't do that. I do that. So anyway, so I did. I put together this Easter basket party. Well, this year rolled around. And this guy from high school that I haven't seen since the day we walked across that stage at graduation, heard from or anything, sent me a message. And he said, Katie, I know we haven't seen each other in a long time, but I just had my first baby. And I was wondering if you were going to do that Easter basket party again. And I said, yes, I am. yes, I am. Well, we moved. My family's had a little transition lately, and we moved houses, and I wasn't sure where we were going to be. I didn't know if we were going to be settled, but I was positive that we were not going to be prepared for as big of a party as I wanted to have for this Easter basket party again. So instead I live in a very small town, and it's a Swedish-influenced town, and there's a really sweet little candy shop, and it's called the Sweet Swede. So I called up Sonia at the Sweet Swede, and I said, hey, Sonia, I said, how would you feel about partnering with me for an Easter basket party? And she said, yeah, I'd love it. What are you thinking? We made up some flyers. I should say, this is a event that's maybe, for me, it was $1,000 day. In sales, not in cash, in sales. I had $1,000 sales at this party. So, if you're thinking about this and you're trying to think, okay, well, that's a great idea. How should I do that? How can I do that for my customers? You're going to do it on whatever scale you can do it on. Like I said, the first year, I had the inventory that I had. It was picked over from a book fair that I'd done at the local Y. And I still was a great success. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking it's something you might also like to implement, do it on what's comfortable for you. Don't feel like you have to go crazy on it, because you don't. And in this particular instance, it was the gesture. It was the nicety of not having to go put all this together and end up with all those bags of candy left over in your cupboards. So I called Sonia. She said, yes, that's great. Let's do it. We put some flyers up around town, and then we opened the doors. You guys, it was a crazy success. I told you what I sold. She sold at least that. And for this teeny tiny little small town chocolate shop in Lindstrom, Minnesota, this was a huge day. And we decided, we've already got it. We've got our stocking stuffer soiree already on the calendar. It's great, and it was a great service to her. There were people that were coming into her shop that had never been there before. It was a great service to me because I had people that were in there buying fudge for the day that had never even heard of Usborne Books, and I had the chance to talk about it. As a result of that, I ended up going and talking to a church, and I think I will have a book fair at a church in my town as well. So all of this has to do with customer care. The thing that I think is important, too, to consider as you're looking at this stuff is that you have to start somewhere. You have to pick up that one lead. You have to call that one number. You have to make that one phone call. It does not have to be huge. It does not have to be, it probably will be over time. The better at it you get, the thicker the stack of paper that you can take on, the leads, the customers that you can contact. It is important that you start, though. It's not necessarily that you have to jump right in, but you have to start with a spot. A couple other things that I have been able to do that is just regular customer care. These are part of my regular routine. Every person that orders a book from me online gets a handwritten thank you note. And the reason I do that is because when you order online, as you all know, those books ship straight to the customer. I don't have a chance to put my sticker on the back of them. And I want to make sure that when they go to reorder books, that they have my contact information handy. So inside that handwritten thank you note, I include a business card and a business magnet. And if you order your business cards on Vistaprint, you can have business magnets made up that look like the front of your business card. And I was practicing this last night with Alyssa Muscatello, my roommate, and she said, do you think that works? And she was, as an honest question, I've been asked it in the past, and I said, well, I think so, because I get these repeat customers, and I walked into the homes of my hostesses and I've seen my magnet on their fridge. So that's minor, and I think I agree with the idea that thank you notes have gone away, and I think that they're very important, and they mean a lot. And those of us that are leaders in the room had a chance to hear Beth talk about generations. And if you look at the generational differences between who sends thank you cards and who doesn't, it's pretty clear, but everybody appreciates them. Everybody likes to get them. It doesn't matter what generation you're in. You're going to appreciate it when somebody has taken the time to thank you for your $12 order. Something else I do a regular YMCA book fair. I do it a couple times a year. They've asked me back a third time, which is great. And I have regular customers. I have people that come. This is their why. This is their weekly routine. They're in there all the time, and I get to have a few minutes of their week. But I've gotten to know some of these people over time. And one of them is a woman that she came in, and she was talking to me about her avid teenage readers and how they really liked the Hunger Games. And I said, well, of course, what am I going to recommend? The Phoenix Files. Only the first 3 were available. So the next Y book fair I did, I made sure to have the last 3. She couldn't wait. She was there. She came in when she wasn't even working out to get the last 3 books of the Phoenix Files. A, because it's a great product, but B, because she knew that I would have them for her. Then this most recent one, I made sure that I had with every book that is possibly available out of the last 13, because I couldn't wait, and I can't wait to sell her the debt. I have another one. Okay, on that line. So there's this fantastic kid, and he lives in my town, and we have a festival that I do every year. Those of you that are starting your business and just sort of trying to get off the ground, I mean, I do realize I'm talking about past customers, and I have an established customer base at this point, but I haven't always. And I'm going to tell you where I started. So I came to a convention that would have been 4 years ago now, and I left here and I didn't have a single thing on my calendar. And that's a crappy feeling. When you come here and you've got all this great inspiration and all this stuff and you can't wait to go put it to work, and you get home and you're like, you got nothing. I didn't like that feeling. I coach my team not to develop that feeling for themselves, but I did have a town festival, and I called them and I got myself in. So I had one thing on my calendar. And what I've learned after doing that one event every year is that it grows. The sales have grown from year to year. People come back and they seek me out. I'm going to give you an example. So I was doing this booth after the Phoenix Files came out, and I had this mom, and she comes walking into my booth. She's got her arms crossed. She's got this sour look on her face, but she's still in my booth. So I'm like, how can I help you? And she's like, my kid doesn't read. Again, still in my booth. So I said, well, what's he into? What are his interests? What does he like? And she said, I don't know. What's that one? And she points at the Phoenix Files. And I said, I don't know. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard it's awesome. Because it was the one I got at convention that year. And this booth is right away in July. I hadn't had a chance to read it yet. She goes, fine, I'll get it. Thank you very much. Move on. Anyways, so she bought it, which was great. 48 hours later, I get a phone call from this man-child. I'm going to need that other book. So I said, okay. I said, no problem. I'd love to bring it to you. Where do you live? And I met him at there's a Holiday gas station right in town. And we were doing it looked like a little drug deal almost. I'm like, here's your book, sir. It's awesome. And then the next year, when the next 3 Phoenix Files came out, guess what? Guess who came walking into my booth? And you guys, he is at least 6'5". He is at least 300 pounds. He is this enormous man-child, and he loves our books. Guess who else is going to get the debt? I can't wait to go home and call him. That's customer care. It doesn't have to be all of them, you guys. I couldn't possibly think about every single whim, every single book that every one of my customers might be interested in. But that's a kid that needed our books. That's a difference that I made in that kid's life, because I am a part of this incredible company, and this incredible company continues to feed us with incredible books, and that's what we do. I cared that he liked that book. I cared. And then when he came back the next year, I said, did you like them? And I wanted to know. I'm going to give you a couple of other examples here of just little things that I do. And then I'm going to call you two up because I know you have prepared some as well. I have my sister-in-law's mother got my email newsletter one year, and she emailed me back, and she said, Katie, I'd really like to buy some books for Christmas. How should I do that? How should I go about doing that? And I typed back, I said, oh, Mary, that's wonderful. I would love to help you with that. Why don't you take a look at my website, and you can email me the names and the ages of these kids, and I'd be happy to put together some recommendations for you. I thought that was great. I was like, that is serving that customer. I'm going to I'm going to cherry pick some books for her, and she's going to have her Christmas list all taken care of. I didn't hear anything from her. So I emailed her back. I said, hey, Mary, did you get a chance to take a look at that list? And she said, yeah. She said, I did, but I'm just really uncomfortable with the website piece. She said, I just think it's kind of, what I didn't realize in the initial contact back with her is that she already had my website. She responded to my email newsletter. She reached out to me directly because there was something about that she didn't like or she didn't want, or it wasn't her style of shopping. So I said, no problem. I said, guess what? I just got a bunch of new titles because this is right after the mid-season release had come out, and I ordered a bunch of them because I was geeked about them. I ordered them. I said, well, let's meet for coffee. Have you guys ever done a personal shopping appointment? Wow, are those gangbusters. I couldn't believe it. She was so relieved to have me show up with a box full of books. In this particular instance, I do know the kids in her life. If I didn't know the kids in her life, it would have been a simple thing to retrieve from her. Just who are they, how old are they? General interest is helpful. But I just came with a bunch of books. She ended up shopping. She must have spent $250 on my books for my family. Really, it's my brother's kids. Anyways, well, so I'll tell you what, you guys, we're gonna keep going with this. We're gonna keep giving some good customer care examples. I really hope that there's something, a nugget, something that you take and you think that not only like that was good, I'm glad I heard that, but I can do something with that. That's what we're after. But the couple messages that I want to make sure that you guys got out of this are that dental hygiene analogy. This does not have to take a lot of time. It needs to take 2 to 5 minutes out of your day, but it ought to be every day, or you're going to start to see deterioration. I want you to remember to assume positive intent. And this is with your customers, this is with all facets of your life, but this particular workshop is on customer care. I also want you to remember to start somewhere. One. You have to pick one thing to do. All right, come on up, ladies.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Go ahead, Amanda. Okay. In addition to thinking of your customers, I'm Timberly Miller, by the way, think of your recruits, your consultants, your team. They're all your customers. What we have to do in communicating with them, because customer service is also about building rapport, building relationships, smiling when you're talking to people. Because when you're assuming positive intent with the grumpy lady that walks into your booth, you want to be smiling at her no matter what. And you needed to discern her problem, and her problem was that her son wasn't reading, and Katie successfully discerned what her need was. So with your customers, smile with them. Also think about your team members also, and that discern their problem, meet that need, find a way to meet the need with your customer, and then build rapport and ongoing relationship because you want them to come back to you like the big man child. So that's one little tidbit, and we've got some more. Amanda and I are going to kind of go back and forth. Go ahead.
Well, I think I'm going to buy my books from Katie now because she's inspired me. I was like, whoa, she's awesome. I'm just going to buy my books from you. So
No, don't do that.
One of the things that I really thought about while she was talking is I think that we need to make our interactions with our customers very personal and very intentional. One thing that I like to do is I like to ask questions. While Katie was talking, I kept thinking like how important it is to know them as individuals and know what their families are looking for and why they came to the party. Not to be a downer, but I lost a baby in November. She was born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome and only lived for 3 days. And when we were going shopping for the funeral, I was emotional. I was fat because I just had a baby. I was uncomfortable, and I was trying to find a dress to go shopping, and I couldn't find anything, and it was horrible. It was like the worst shopping experience of my entire life. And I go into this store, and I was trying not to find something black. I didn't want to be all like sullen and depressed, and so I wanted to find something pink. November is not the month for pink. And so I went into a store, and I asked the lady, I said, do you have any pink? And she said, why, are you going to a wedding? And I, like, of course, didn't mean, I know that she was trying to be nice, but I said, no, I'm going to a funeral. And she said, oh, okay. And then she walked away. She didn't help us the rest of the day. But it was one of those situations where I thought we need to ask our customers what they're looking for so we are helping them in the way that they needed. Like, the lady didn't mean anything bad, but it wasn't, she didn't ask, say, what are you trying to find? What is the event for? Though you don't need to ask direct questions. You just need to kind of try to ask questions so you know what they're looking for and why they're there. Because they don't necessarily know what exactly they're looking for. They're just trying to find something. What's the age of your child? Is it a boy or a girl? That's what I always ask. Is it a boy or a girl? Okay, so now I kind of have an idea. What age is it? I was at a booth, and I had a brand new lady and recruit with me, and she was so excited. And this mom came in, and she said, oh, I'm so excited, I need to get some books for my kids. And she said, well, what's the age? And the mom said, like 21 or something. And I'm thinking, 21, looking at books for Usborne, and I just kind of sat back, and the lady went in and started showing her Conspiracy and Phoenix Files. And the mom looked at my new recruit and said, he has Down syndrome, so he's not reading at that level. He's reading at like a first grade level. And I said, oh, that's okay. And I showed her some first grade books. But I told my recruit after, I said, you just needed to say, like, what does he enjoy? What is his reading level? Because she felt very uncomfortable that she had suggested such a high-level book for a child that wasn't going to be able to read it. And so we just need to dig in a little bit deeper when we're helping our customers so we can find the right fit for them without coming across a little pushy or coming across insensitive in some ways or suggesting books that mean absolutely nothing to their family.
Absolutely. She's talking about listening and discerning what people really, really need. And when we exhibit active listening, the opposite of talking isn't listening. The opposite of talking is waiting. Waiting for them to figure out what their own problem is and you figuring out how you can meet that need. So, for example, when you're speaking positively with someone, here's an example of something that I do. When a book is out of stock, don't say, I can't get that book for you, it's not available until next month. Say something like, that book will be available next month. I will keep an eye on when it will be available, and I will get it to you as soon as it comes in. So the difference between those two statements were, one didn't say anything really bad. It said essentially the same information. It just wasn't as positive. You weren't going above and beyond to meet that person's needs. I said the same thing, but I said, you know what? I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to come to your house and deliver it or mail it to you as soon as it becomes available. So it gave them a positive interaction with receiving that book. Okay.
Can I check on
Yeah,
that really
please.
quick? So it's very similar to that. A couple years ago, I met a woman, and she said, Usborne used to have a dictionary. Whatever happened to that? And I said, you know what, I'm new. It hasn't been available since I have been a part of this company. It is such a standard, though, that I would imagine in time they might come back out with one. Would you like it? If you don't mind, I'll keep your name and your contact information on file. I'll take a note that that is something you're interested in, and then when and if it ever does become available, I will reach out to you. Swear to goodness. And then what did they just come out with?
Dictionary.
And now I have an ECFE book fair. I have a running list, you guys, of books people want. Things people would like to see someday. I've got a kid, and a downline on mine today, she said meerkat. She has a woman who is crazy about meerkats and wants to know if Usborne has a meerkat book. Well, not yet, but clearly it's in the works. So I keep a list also of the things people want. I can't give it to them necessarily, but I would hate it if it became available and I didn't know that they were looking for that.
In terms of my gold personality, I used to have all the books shipped to me, and I would sort them, organize them, and deliver them to my hostesses. And as my children got older and life got busier, I decided to send everything to the hostess, even if they were close by. And what I do is I say, I can give you an extra $10 in books for doing my job if you would be willing to have the order shipped to you. And you can do the sorting, and I will send you bags, and I write names at home. I write the names on every bag. I include stickers in an envelope and the pink receipts with a written thank you card, and I mail it or drop it off to the hostess prior to them receiving their books. Every single hostess chooses to sort the order and get the extra $10 in free books. So at home, all I have to do is write names on bags, put in pink receipts, gold stickers, a written little thank you card, send it off to them, and I'm done with the party. I call them 2 days later and make sure that they received it. Was everything okay? And then I'm going to start doing customer care calls a lot more consistently. They all want to sort them themselves and go through it because they're nosy and they want to read them first before they put them in the bags.
Would there be any reason you wouldn't just bring the bags and stickers with you to the party and leave them then?
Well, I like to write the thank you card and have it all nice and pretty and organized for them, folded nicely in the envelope and all that good stuff. Send it all to them at once because there might be outside orders and additional sales, or I might want to say something a little extra on the thank you card at the end of the party. So, absolutely, absolutely. And that is a little add-on statement that I do say.
How do you keep track of all those customers?
When you refer to the thank you card that you write out, is it for each customer or just for the hostess?
I just write a thank you card for the customer, or for the hostess, excuse me, and then call the customers later.
Okay, thank you.
Another little tidbit, many of you may serve libraries or you want to serve libraries, and I have a lot of repeat librarians that I meet with once or twice a year. I always make cookies every time I meet with a librarian. I use cracked sugar cookie recipe, and they love it. They're used to my cracked sugar cookies, and it's a real simple thing because I have some librarians that are allergic to chocolate. And then in terms of catalogs, when I meet with librarians, I prepare every single librarian's catalog highlighted in pink, highlight every single book they've bought over the last 10 or 15 years in the catalog. And so every year I go through the past catalog with their additional order and highlight the ISBN underneath the book so that as each of us are looking at the catalog and going through it, they can see at a glance what they already have on their shelf and they don't have to go back and forth. My librarians love that, so they don't have to walk back to the computer to see if they have it. I highlight 2 catalogs, one for myself and one for her, every year or 6 months.
I have a similar customer like yours, and so I use the inventory manager in Order Pro to keep her list of books. So it works really well because you can make different sets in the inventory manager. So I can have, and then I can print it out and give it to her too.
That's great.
Another thing, I think it's important, I'm totally Generation Y for those leaders who are in the thing, like media, blah, 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 all that stuff. And so I found that a lot of my customer care happens within Facebook. I don't friend every single customer I've ever had, but the ones that I had special connections with at the party, I go and then I'll friend them later, or I'll friend the hostess and then find the friends that joined the event or whatever. And so that way, I'm always staying in contact with them in a non-us-born business way. But then I can just throw in like, oh, hey, look at this brand new title that just came out. Like I tag people with, some of the new pictures from some of the books that we had. And so I'm not necessarily having to get on the phone, which is not what I want to do. I have 2 small children that are crazy, and the phone is an invitation to start yelling at mom. And so Facebook's a lot easier for me. And so I think make it work with what works with your family and what works with your lifestyle, but Facebook is a really great way to help tag those people, keep up to date in what they're interested in, let them know of the specials. That's an easier way to maintain relationships. And like I said, you don't do it with everybody. There's definitely some people that I'm like, thank you for your order. I'm okay if you never order from me again because you're not, something like that. But those people that I made a connection with that I know maybe bought a set, maybe bought half of the last 13, that way I remember them because I go through the list and I see their name when I'm on Friends, Facebooking them.
And how do you break out of that? That's a really good question. In that single instance, I believe that she is my customer, but that's because of the books she's shopping for. If she was shopping for younger books, I don't necessarily think that she would be my loyal customer. But because we are, it's getting better, but we're somewhat limited in what we have at those older range, in that older range. So she just knows that I'll have it for her. It's the second part of your question is how do you break out of that? If she is an event customer and not a loyal customer, in a booth setting, I absolutely always take notes on who is buying what from me. Because what happens? Like, you've got all of 30 seconds with these people, right? It's fast and it's furious on a really, really good day. You might not have time to take that minute to write things down. But I'll do whatever little nugget I can remember, and I will write it down on the back, and I will revisit it as soon as I have a spare moment. Because isn't it the truth? Like 5 minutes later, you're like, who is this again? You don't know. So what I would do there is I would, as I take notes of, certain books that they maybe have purchased, like The Secrets of the Apple Tree is a great example. My customers went wild for that. Clearly, so did everybody else's, because it went out of print or out of stock like immediately. So as soon as The Secrets of the Seashore came out, I was on the phone with the people that had bought that from me. And it was easy, because I really only had to look back about 6 weeks before the thing went out of stock. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't hard to do. So it's these little things. And I think it's making yourself different. You have to stand apart. And again, maybe it's just one customer. Don't go into a whole booth thinking that you have to make every single person that shops at this booth today yours and yours alone, because you'll make yourself crazy. But if you can pick one, if there's one connection that you made, if there's one person that you want to follow up with or kind of help find the next greatest series or whatever, does that answer your question? It does. Okay. I'll come back to do it.
I have a little box. Were you going to say something, Amanda? Sorry.
After my
Okay, I have a 3x5 card box, and it has January, February, January through December in it, and I have lots of Post-it notes and sticky papers and things like that, and I shove them in the month. And every month I just pull out that month, and that's who I need to call that month.
And mine's very similar. I tried the file folder thing, but I like out of sight, out of mind. So I will put on the side, excuse my thing, but I will put on the side of my calendar people who are hostesses that want to host that month. Because you call up people and they say, oh, I can't do it this month, but will you call me back in November? I go to November and I write to call them and their information. I also do that with specific customers or librarians that I need to meet with. So when I go to that month, I know who to call. I also can look back, so I actually keep all of my planners, so I can look back and say, oh, that person did a party last November, so she is due for some new books, and then I can go back and have her information from my planner. So I maintain a lot of relationships with past hostesses because I recall them. They're my first choice to do another party when the new titles come out. So that's how I've done it. It's always in my face, so I see it.
I have another system that's different, and I struggle. Man, do I ever aspire to organization. But it's just not in my innate being. But I have it's a 3-ring binder, but it's the size of a half sheet of paper. Have you guys seen these? I just got it at Office Max. And a little three-hole punch, and the door prize slips fit in there perfectly. So then I bought the dividers that are by the month, so same to you. And then, so what I do is they start out on the top until they have a month to go into. And my goal is always to get those ones on the top in a month to follow up with, or chuck them. If they're not interested, that's fine. I don't need to hang on to the lead slip. They're already in IMN. So that's my system. Everybody goes into IMN, and then they sit on the top of all of those dividers. And then once I can file them into a month, then I call them by the month. And hostesses go in there as well.
And I pencil in, like, Monday this day, call these people. So I have, like, a running list of people that I need to call. Like, oh, I need a follow-up from this party. I wrote that in. So then when I go to look at my list, I'm very goal. I have a very strict schedule. I try to fit. So I follow those. Like, I write who I'm supposed to call that day.
I'm also very orange, and so I'm disorganized. And what do you do at the times that you completely fail? It's like 6 months later, you have lead sheets, and you're like, I mean, how on earth do you, like, and what about a bad like my very, very first home party did not go. I brought every single book I had, which was like 3 boxes. It was over. I was like trying to be kind to her and let her take her time to choose a book, and she took forever, and then she was pissed because it took so long. And, I'm not freaking calling her again, but she she loved the books, and I gave her an extra book just to make her happy, and so I think she would. But I don't know. Like, what do you?
You start somewhere. You call her. You should call her. So with that particular one, and this is a true story as well. I went to a booth. I had a lead slip, and this is something else I learned the hard way. Is on the back of those lead slips of people that I meet at a booth, I write the booth that I met them at, because you do one and you're set. You do more than one, and it's like, where did I meet these people? I don't know. So this is a true story. I called this lady and I said, you know what? So I met you at the Y in October, and I said, and at the time, and this was in March, so this is well past when I ought to have gotten in touch with her. I said, and I have to apologize. I wish that I would have gotten in touch with you sooner, but to be honest, I just didn't. Are you still interested in hosting a show? And she goes, actually, I met you in July, and I'm like. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, I promise that I am a much better consultant than I am at my paperwork. And she laughed, and then we had a rapport, and we could put the whole thing to bed. Again, it goes back to that assuming positive intent. You can't think that this woman had such a terrible time that she never wants to see your name or hear your voice ever again. She loves your product. Where else is she going to get it?
And I also think, too, that was one thing that I thought about is sometimes there's accidents. Sometimes you aren't on par all the time. A book comes damaged, or the books get a little bit late, or you're on a bad day and you weren't the most friendly at your party. Like, there's going to be times, and I think that's when we need to compensate our customers. You don't need to be shelling out your commission to make everybody happy, but I hate going to a restaurant and something's wrong with the restaurant and I don't get a free dessert. Like, if you did something wrong, give me a dessert to compensate. And so that's how I feel, is if there's something that, if you can tell that a customer, a hostess, somebody is unhappy, or you think they might be, overcompensate a little bit. Give them a little extra. Give them a free $1 book. It's just free. They'll be happy about it. So I think we need to go out of our way. We need to separate ourselves from everybody else who just loves them and leaves them. We need to say, I'm so sorry that I didn't get these books to you sooner. I'm giving you a half-price coupon to get something else in the future. Something that says, I'm willing to sacrifice to keep you as my customer.
Well done. Totally.
Going back to your 3-ring binder and the index box and the calendar, if the customer doesn't give you, like, call me back in a month, how do you, I had to have specifics, how do you know what month you want to stick them in? Like, do you have a system, like, my booth was in January, when do you plan, like, how do you know what month to pick to call them back?
Assuming that you've called them within 24 hours after the booth and they've said, I try to call within 24 hours after having the event, if it's a booth event, for example, and they say, you know what, now's not really a good time. I say, well, pick a month when you'd like me to contact you again. I ask them to pick the month. So.
And I will sometimes, I tend to have the attitude, if you're at a party and you book a party, if I fill up, then you were the ones that got my first dates, and if you decided you didn't want to pick a party, then you're going to have to kind of be put on my waiting list. And so my thought is, if this sounds probably bad, but if I have filled up my month and I don't have any more parties, then that person, I will call them when I have a next available dates. I'm not going to try to squeeze in. I'll just call them when I need, and I'll say, I'm sorry, I finally have dates that are open. Would you be interested in doing a party? Create some demand for yourself.
I like that too, because I do that also, where I'll meet somebody and I won't call them back right away, or I'll call them right after and I don't get an answer. And then, as I said, they sit on the top. And I really don't call them back until I'm trying to book up my calendar. And the hope is that I don't get to them very often, which...
And if they wanted to do a party right then, they would have booked right then. So you are rewarding the people who want to book right then.
I'm not saying it's a great system.
It's not.
But it's working. I mean, it's happening. And you asked, that's the honest answer. Okay.
So what do you suggest for this scenario? I totally dropped the ball on a preschool. In December, they had like a winter festival, and I promised them the world. Like, I said, you're going to get tons of free books, and the sales were awful, and because they didn't advertise or anything. And they maybe got like 3 books, but it was just like, oh, whatever. And then I was going to quit in January. I completely took the month off, and I still have their books, and I'm like totally embarrassed, and I don't know what to do. Like, sorry.
You want to go ahead?
Well, I was just going to say, well done for you for not only not quitting in January, but for being a convention. That a girl. That a girl. That's a big deal. And this is the truth. This is the honest truth. If it makes you feel any better, I've got books still sitting in a customer's closet 45 minutes away from my house from October. It happens to all of us. It happens to all of us, and it's okay. So in that instance, and I'm going to reiterate what you said so that I'm clear on your situation, because I want you to feel like when you walk out of that door that you know exactly what you need to do to handle this and to put it to bed. Okay, so as I understood it, you did a book fair, and that you all had big expectations, and then it fell short for lots of reasons. And honestly, I feel like when it comes to working with book fairs and schools and stuff like that, you have got to take some charge. You have to be insistent on where you're going to set up your stuff. You have to be insistent on being present to help sell these books. You have to be insistent on how they're going to advertise the event. And if you're not, if they still don't want to follow your lead, that's fine, but then you have to make it clear to them that, no promises then. Like you have to come to the table as the expert. And that's okay that you didn't, or maybe you did and they just didn't listen to what you had to say. So the sales were short. They didn't end up with the books that they wanted. The event was ended, and then you never delivered the books, right? Yeah.
Because they didn't want to pay. I had to put it in as home show.
I understand. Yes. So if I were you, and we have some very strong book fair people in this room, so please speak up if I don't say the right thing. But if I were you, I would make sure that I got myself some more store bargain books, a couple, maybe $10 worth, maybe a new title, and I would go in there and I would deliver those books with a fresh catalog and a handwritten note. And I would say, I am sorry about the way that our most recent book fair went. I already have ways in which I know that we could improve the results if you're willing to give me a second chance. Leave your business card and walk out that door. And know that if they never call you back, you remedied it in the very best way that you knew how to do and that Katie Malchow knew how to do. You can't win them all. I mean, isn't that the message here? You can't. You cannot make them, every single one, happy. The important thing is that you try and that you care.
And you can also let them know that typically first book fairs aren't maybe as successful, and they will increase in future years. Let them know these are the steps we can do in order to make it better. And you're also representing the company as a whole, so you want them to have a really good feeling about the company as a whole, and you can do that when you go in and just humble yourself and say, you know what, we can do better. I can do better, and I really want to work with you. And let them know you want their business. Can I say one more thing? Okay, in terms of going above and beyond and selling books, I want to give the customer a risk-free purchase. So when I'm at a booth or a home show or with anybody, just a little tidbit that I do is we love selling our wind-up and busy books, right? And mouse and squirrel. I always tell every customer that's looking at this book, I say, my sticker's on the back of the book. If you lose your toy, give me a call. I'll send you a new one. I literally, from customer service, ordered several of each of the little toys. And so when a customer calls me at my expense, I mail it to them. So that's just a little tidbit. And I have a stash of mice and squirrels at home, and I tell them I have lots of mice, and there's a little joke about that, and I stick a mouse in the mail to them, or I take them with me to home shows, and I give them a mouse and a squirrel. So that's just a little tidbit, and they're willing to purchase the book. And guess what? I've had very few people call me and ask for them. I have a drawer full of them, and they still sit there collecting dust. So there you go.
I know that there's times that, and I've heard this by several people, is they'd come to convention and they would feel so overwhelmed and feel like they're doing a horrible job. My first regionals, I left in a panic attack, and I said, I am never going to regionals. I am never going to convention. I'm horrible. Look at all these amazing people. And I didn't promote for 2 years. I never went to regionals until I promoted. It was just these overwhelming feelings that I was doing all these bad things. Do remember in your business that you're doing a good job. If you're not doing the greatest customer care, that doesn't mean that you can never do it. Like, you just need to start small, like Katie said, fake it till you make it. It's okay. Most of the time, people understand that you're a human, you're a mom, you have a job, and I just think that we need to find, Timberly's been really great about this when I talked to her, we need to find a strength within ourselves and know that we're doing a good job and we're worth it. And people will they will understand that, and they will see that from us. And you'll naturally build confidence with your customers and with your hostesses, just because they will build off of your confidence and your enthusiasm for the business. So. I think, and I'm not the expert with book fairs, but I have done a couple where I continually do them at the same school. And I think it's okay that you have customers who only shop your book fair. Like, if they plan on coming and buying your book fair, that's okay. Like, I don't need somebody from the local grocery store to call me up to ask how my veggies were when I left. I'm going to keep going back. And so I think that's okay that you see them. I think when you see them, be enthusiastic. Hey, how did you like that book? And be excited for them. But the ones that you talk with, the ones you had a chance, don't fret if you didn't get their email address. But the ones you do have, take note if you have a chance. If you don't, it's okay. Like, you could call somebody up and say, oh, I saw that you got Conspiracy. We have a brand new series. I don't think you have to overwhelm yourself and stress yourself out that you are connecting with every person. I think just being positive and letting them know, they're going to remember if it was a negative experience, but if it's a positive experience, you're going to leave with a positive memory until the next time you meet them again, and that's totally fine.
You guys, we are out of time. I was coming back to get your question, but we are out of time. I'm totally fine with sticking around for a couple minutes if anybody has any other things that you want to come up and chat about. I don't know about you ladies, but thank you so much for coming. I was worried about being up against that Facebook one. Thank you.
We care about customers. Facebook's very impersonal, right?
So
thanks. Awesome.